Hare Krishna, Namaste. Chapter 12, which is entitled as Bhakti Yoga. Today we will see the summary of chapter 12. This chapter, Bhakti Yoga, begins with Arjuna's enquiry and ends with Krishna's ultimate response. Arjuna asked, Krishna, some people worship you with an idea of wanting to attain you, whereas some others worship the imperishable, unmanifest form of yours, impersonal form, or as we already saw, the other interpretation is worship of one's own Atma. Who are better among these two? Krishna responded, Arjuna, what is the doubt? In the worship of Paramatma, both the object of worship and the fruit of worship are excellent. In contrary, in case of worship, meditation on the individual self, Atma, which has been already explained in chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. In response to that, Arjuna asked, Krishna, your teaching I have well understood from those chapters, and also understood the greatness of meditation upon you, worshipping your personal form. My question is not that. It is regarding which of the two methods of meditation will fructify fast, will give result fast. Kindly clear my doubt. And Krishna said, Partha, those will endowed with results sooner who worship me alone with utmost faith and devotion, because their goal is just attaining me alone. In this aspect, meditation worshipping on me is superior. And in response, Arjuna asked, My dear Lord, why is the result delayed for those who are meditator on the self, Atma? And Krishna in response gave various points saying how it is difficult to worship the self. It cannot be perceived through the senses, cannot be defined in terms with Deva, Manushya, like that. It is omnipresent but inconceivable. It is common to all bodies. It is unmodifiable in its unique nature. It is eternal. He who meditates on the self, having such characteristics, should control his senses from being engaged in the external phenomena. He should strive for universal good, realizing the equality of all beings. And if one is like that, then there is no doubt that those who meditate in this manner will realize their self, its essential nature. But it is an difficult path. It is difficult because the tendency to identify the body with self is very strong. Therefore, that meditation on self is difficult. In response, Arjuna asked, Krishna, is it not the same case with you to meditate, to worship you? Seem to be everything applicable to you as well. whatever you said about Atma seem to be applicable to Paramatma. So in what way self-worship, meditation on the self is so difficult? Krishna in response said, "My dear Pandava, your doubt is natural. Just pay attention and your doubt will be dispelled. The wrong tendency to identify the body with the self is ingrained in the beings from time immemorial. Even now, the misconception persists in the embodied beings. The self is not visible. The body can be perceived by the eyes. So all the senses are limited. It cannot be used to see the Atma. It is difficult. In such a situation, how can one attain it quickly? Whereas in case of me, my worship, altogether different case. Generally speaking, people believe there is God. They are also sure that God is extraordinary and different from them. They joyously worship His extraordinary form in the temples by listening to the Itihasas and Puranas. They get interested in His auspicious qualities. Even the children believe in God and pray to Him. Thus, it is possible to get an awareness of God. It is difficult to bring awareness towards Atma. You can understand by seeing the world. Then Arjuna asked, "You said those who meditate, those who worship on you, with you as their goal to attain, will attain the result sooner. How is that? Could you please explain?" And then Krishna said, "Those who desire to attain me will constantly meditate upon me with love, not having any other goal in mind. Their mind is focused on me always. They will adore me alone through all such acts as worship, praises, hymns, prostration, etc. They will dedicate all their actions to me. I save such people soon from the deadly ocean of samsara." Arjuna asked, "What is the direct mean for attaining you?" And Krishna said, "I can be attained through constant meditation with devotion, holding me as the supreme object to be attained." Arjuna said, "Lord, my mind is fickle. It does not stay focused even on familiar matters. Given this, how can it dwell steadily on you, unfamiliar as you are?" Krishna said, "Arjuna, if you are unable to hold your mind focused uninterruptedly on me in meditation, the alternative is the practice of remembrance, Abhyasa Yoga. Contemplate repeatedly on the fact that I am full of divine, auspicious qualities and have no trace of any faults. Also, think about the drawbacks inherited in other matters that you see. When you become more and more aware of the drawbacks in the objects of daily life, the mind will disengage from them and get engaged towards me. As you grow in clarity and conviction about me, which is full of auspicious qualities and free from any kind of faults, your mind will be able to permanently engage on me. And Arjuna said, for long time I am familiar with matters only. They are quickly attainable, they are accessible. So the mind being habituated with these objects, it would be difficult to practice even constant remembrance. Then Krishna said, my dear friend, if you are incapable of practicing remembrance, engage yourself in devotional acts such as construction of temples, erecting temple, digging a tank for the temple, etc. Do these with great love for my pleasure as my deeds, activities performed only to please me are purifactory in themselves, and while doing each activity, when I am being taught, your mind will soon get focused on me steadily and then practice remembrance as a result, which will then lead you to deep meditation on me. Then Arjuna said, Krishna, I am used to performing activities, but whatever action I engage in, I do it for myself, not for the sake of others. How can I then perform work for your sake? And Krishna said, my dear friend, if you are saying you are unable to do even this, which is the first step of Bhakti Yoga, to engage yourself to work for me, then get engaged yourself in the work that you are supposed to do for your own sake. But while you are doing that, don't keep an eye on the result, the fruits of your action. Offer those results to me. Arjuna, can you forego bathing? Can you stay without eating? Can you live without breathing? You can't. Dedicate all these actions to me. Same way, do all your daily and occasional duties without craving for their results, and dedicate those results unto me. If you are incapable of performing my deeds like temple construction, cleaning the temple, maintaining the garden, etc. for my pleasure, which are considered to be the first step of Bhakti Yoga, you should contemplate on the nature of the self, individual self, Jivatma. When you do so, it engages yourself in disinterested action. Then Arjuna asked, my dear Supreme Lord, please explain the process of natural development of bhakti through disinterested action. Krishna responded saying that when works are done as offering to me, sins are annihilated. With sins destroyed, the mind gets purified. In a pure mind, contemplation on the self is generated. When the meditation becomes steady, direct perception of Atma takes place. Once the self is directly perceived, devotion for me automatically originates. Then Arjuna asked, what is the connection between me perceiving my Atma and the generation of devotion for you? Krishna said, my dear friend, the fruit must evolve into its ripeness. In the same way, bhakti, which did not sprout by itself, cannot be generated by force. If something is forced, then how can it be enjoyable? So the first step to understand yourself, who you are, and meditate upon yourself so you can directly perceive yourself, then that will lead one to the relationship with the Supreme Lord. That relationship which always exists. Once you realize all this, you would think of meeting the Supreme Lord, who's your father and mother. You would start thinking of the ways and means for this. With great love, you will start your search. Therefore, perform Karma Yoga. By performing Karma Yoga, your consciousness gets purified so that you can focus on the self, individual self. After attaining the Atma Sakshatkara, then that will lead one into the path of bhakti. Then one will start engaging oneself into doing devotional activities by using their body, and that will lead one to appreciate and remember the auspicious unlimited qualities of the Supreme Lord. When they start appreciating, then they cannot stop thinking about the Supreme Lord, and that becomes a constant meditation by which they can attain me sooner. After hearing this progressive method, Arjuna continued, saying that I have now well understood that disinterested action, not having interest towards the result of one's action, will progressively take one towards God. What qualities are must for Karma Yogi who takes up his work? Whom all do you hold dear to you? Whom do you like the most? Please be gracious and explain to me these aspects. And Krishna said, Oh, my dear friend, he must not have hatred towards any being. He should have love even for his enemies. When they are afflicted, he should try to help them during their suffering. He is free from the feeling of mind, mamakara. He does not mistake his body for the self. His equanimity is not disturbed by distress or delight. He is not affected by heat and cold. He is content with what he has. He is continuously engaged in contemplation of the self, which is separate from the body. He has his mind under control so that it does not get affected due to external objects. He has firm conviction regarding the meaning of teachings in the Shastra. He is of clear knowledge that I alone, the object of worship, and it's me alone who can bestow the results. Such a devotee of mine, engaged in action with no interest for the result, is dear to me. Then Arjuna said, Krishna, it seems that it is not easy for anyone to have these qualities. Then there will be none dear to you. Then Krishna continued, Arjuna, he who the world is not afraid nor has repulsion, who is not frightened by the world, who is free from aversion, he is dear to me. If we do not act in ways which threatens others, they too will not do anything frighten us. Hence, even if one does not act for the benefit of others, if he does not cause harm to others, he too is dear to me. Because earlier there was a big list of qualities that were told, and now it is said, even if one cannot do good for others, at least not do bad for others. Arjuna, he who has no longing for anything other than the self Atma, who nourishes his body through food prescribed in the Shastra, and who adopt performing his duties as prescribed by the Shastra, who is not interested in matters that's not recommended by the Shastra, who perceives his duty putting up with the heat, cold, and other physical discomforts, who does not attempt at anything which is not recommended by Shastra, is dear to me as well. Then Krishna continued, one should not rejoice on getting things which generally cause joy to men, nor should one hate on the happenings of a hateful events. One should not grieve over events which normally cause sorrows to people, and one should not aspire for desirable things that not yet acquired. One should renounce both merit and demerit. A devotee who is like this is also dear to me. My dear friend, even if the enemy keeps your side and causes you many harm, ye should look upon such a person as friend. Ye should treat honor and dishonor alike. He is not affected by the pairs of opposites such as heat and cold. Expecting the self, he is not interested in anything else. He does not praise nor he grieve for being blamed. He does not praise others to get something from others. He does not insult others to take revenge of others. He is satisfied with whatever chance brings his way. He is firm in matters concerning the self. He is not attached for home, etc. The devotee who is bestowed with these attributes is also dear to me. And Krishna concludes his response by saying, the supreme devotee is one who follows this nectarian bhakti yoga with utmost faith, with the goal of attaining me, is exceedingly dear to me. Devotion to me will confer liberation. Even as a means, it is most enjoyable, as I have stated earlier, susukam kartum. So in the first sloka, Arjuna asked the question, between two, who's better, who gets the result faster, whether one who worships you, your form, or one who worships the Atma, the individual self. In response, Krishna said in the second sloka, worship of his personal form is perfect. And then in the third, fourth, and fifth sloka, Krishna plays the difficulty in worship, meditation on the self. And in the sixth and seventh sloka, Krishna said how the bhakti, worship of Krishna, gives result sooner. And in the eighth sloka, Krishna says to concentrate the mind upon Krishna alone in his original form, not on the Atma or the impersonal form. Considering that must be heavy for Arjuna to constantly think about him, then he said in the ninth sloka to meditate upon the auspicious qualities, to remember the auspicious qualities of the Supreme Lord. Even that being challenged, then in the 10th sloka, Krishna said, engage yourself in performing devotional activities, constructing temple, laying out the temple garden, maintaining the temple building, cleaning the temple, making flower garlands, and so forth. Since even working for others is difficult, then Krishna said in the 11th, better you do what is meant to do for yourself. Perform your karma yoga. So by performing karma yoga, your mind will be in peace because your consciousness get purified. Once your consciousness get purified and mind in peace, you will be able to focus on your Atma, and you will be able to attain the direct perception of Atma, which leads you to understand the relationship between us, you and I. Then you will start doing your karma related to me. As you do that, you will start remembering and appreciating my qualities. Then you will have a determination to attain me. In that way, you will be able to constantly meditate upon me. Through this process of bhakti, you will attain me. So in the 12th sloka, Krishna said, it's better than struggling with the practice of remembrance of me in case of one whose heart is bereft of love for me, then better to focus on the Atma. Better than the self-realization which is done imperfectly. Thinking of Atma is better. Better than imperfect meditation of Atma is better to perform one's activities, karma yoga, in a renounced mood. This first step of performing karma yoga activities with disinterest action purifies one's mind immediately. That is told in the 12th sloka. And from the 13th sloka through 19th sloka, that is 7 verses, Krishna lists out the qualities one must have to carry on the action in a disinterested mode. And in each of these slokas, Krishna says how such person is dear to him. And at the end, in the 20th sloka, Krishna concludes saying that Bhakti Yoga is nectarian by itself for those who wants to attain me alone, and that's the one which gives a result sooner. Yetu dharmamritamidam yatoktam paryupasate shraddadhanamat paramaha bhaktaste tivame priyaha. Namaste. Hare Krishna.